So, welcome to another session of SynergySphere. On behalf of our team, I welcome you all. I am Charulata Wankhede. I am thrilled for today's session, as we always say, for the speaker, for the learner, from the learner, right? So, we are excited to have such an enthusiastic and diverse audience today with us. At SynergySphere, we always aim to bring together learning and real world experience. And today's session is a perfect example for the same. Whether you are, a deep hearted fan of learning how finance works, or, just trying to learn and understand every other and improve your knowledge regarding finance, this session is perfectly set for you. So we are honored to have with us our speaker for today, Mr. Aniruddha Bhide, a finance professional with over 25 years of industry experience and a PGDM executive learner at MITSDE. With his extensive expertise and practical knowledge, Sir will today guide us on decoding the market with exchange versus finance unveiled. With the help of demonstrate the core of how finance system functions in the real world. So thank you all for being here. We encourage you to engage actively, take notes and make the most out of this session. And remember, this is about finance. So more you know, more you'll grow, right? Before moving to the session, I would like to ask a few questions to sir.
Sure.
Yes, just a moment, please. Okay. So can you please let us know about yourself, sir?
Well, I am, as you stated, Aniruddha Bhide. I am a student. I'm not a student anymore now. I have just completed my PGDM from MIT. I have been in the financial markets for the last, something like 26 odd years. So initially I was a part of a small broker, so I wouldn't put an emphasis on that. But yes, I've been in the financial markets for last 25 years, 15, 16 years as an equity advisor, and now for the last 10 years as a trainer. Uh,
Great.
I am a commerce graduate, and that's something about me. I don't think anything about apart from the basics.
Okay. So we would like to also know a bit about your educational background, how it was, where you did it from.
Well, I have done my commerce graduation till 12th. I have done my education in Mumbai suburb,
Okay.
and post that I shifted out after my father's retirement to Sangli. I
Okay.
completed my graduation in from Shivaji University, and from year 2000, I have been in Pune, and I was working with different broking houses for a period of 15 years and 10 years with as a trainer, I would say.
Okay. That's amazing. Wow. Okay. So can you tell us a brief about your family background?
Well, I stay in Pune. I stay with my wife and my daughter.
Oh, wow. It's always good to have a family around.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about your work experience, like any milestones, highlights, challenges, and success?
Well, that way seen, when I was working in the advisory division, there were a lot of challenges that I have faced, specifically the challenge of 2008 when I was working as an advisor,
Mhm.
wherein I could see the markets dropping like anything. And yes, post that, there haven't been a lot of hiccups, but yes, I would say something about the positives that have happened to me as with regards to being a trainer. Being in the financial market for 15 years, it was not easier for me to transition from the advisory role to a trainer's role. But that is where the function of my manager, that is my boss, Rahul Gai, came in. and also my counterpart, Shalabh Sharma, who ensured that, as I said, that I was into advisory. I was not familiar with speaking on public forums and something like that. Is where these two people, they came in, they helped me, and it was easier for me post their help to transition from an equity advisor or a financial advisor to something like a trainer.
Wow, that's good. So can you tell us, so you have been a learner at MITSD, you have pursued your PGDM, correct? So how was your educational pursuit, how it impacted you in your career?
Well, my PGDM with MIT has been I would say, a turning point in shaping my strategic perspective, somewhat like. Uh, it didn't just teach me the tools of marketing, it helped me truly in understanding the why behind marketing decisions. So
Mhm.
the program emphasized strategic marketing management, which became, or which is, what you can say, critical in aligning market efforts with your long-term business goals and stuff.
Wow, that's great. And we are glad that you had such good experience with us.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
That we've seen. I had a pretty good experience. Not being someone from the marketing field. Yes, I did marketing, but it was sales. It was not marketing. But
right.
understanding this perspective was pretty good for me.
Wow, amazing. Okay. So, what are the tools or techniques that you found most effective, effective in this career growth?
Well, tools, if you say, well, it is more to do with not tools, but the help of people for understanding a lot of things related to finance and financial markets. And yes, definitely, till the time you don't get any kind of response from the people around you, it becomes
Mhm.
pretty much difficult to grow up in this particular field.
Right. So, marketing yourself is also a very important
Yeah.
task, I believe.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay. So, any message or anything that you would like our learners to, have right now or to know for future?
Well, I would like to speak something about the market itself and the profile that I have been working in. So the pace of market, the pace of change in the finance and financial markets has changed drastically. Now the thing is that when we speak specifically about the financial markets per se, uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, maybe something like pre-COVID, the the cycle or the pace wherein it evolved was pretty much on the slower side. But post-COVID, it has changed drastically. And with regards to the retail boom, with regards to the asset classes, those are available with the regulatory shift and the global intervention. So maybe till 2017, 2018, 2019 stuff, we were more of involved, or we were more of into the Indian financial markets. But now it is something wherein we can have global integration as well, which helps investing as well. And then if I speak about my experience as a trainer in the financial markets, uh, the shift is related to something like digital learning, then something like certification focus, because nowadays what has happened is, it doesn't happen that I will learn something that is not related to my field, or which I don't intend to pursue or something like. And the
Mm-hmm.
last thing is about the content that is available and that the entities or the trainees like to have. So they prefer to have a content which is concise rather than having a
Mm-hmm.
baggage full which is not relevant to them.
Right. Okay, that was very new and informative to me as well. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so, thank you so much for being here. As we can see that we have an entire and large audience waiting to know more about you and from you for the journey of finance. So let's begin this journey. Let's discover together. Sir, our learners are very excited and we want you to give the most that they can receive. Over to you. Thank you so
I'll try my
much.
level best for that. Let me share my screen. I have prepared a presentation for I hope my screen is visible. Right.
Yes, it's
Okay. So in this session, I'm not gonna take much of time of you because uh, I don't think so. Spending a lot of time will make sense for you on a Saturday evening. I understand that you are also a bit tied up and in a bit of a hurry to ensure that let me wrap up the session and let me go off for maybe something like uh, and it specifically because it is raining. Pretty good. I'll take some time of yours. I will just touch brief on the basics of the financial markets and something related to what you can say the derivatives. So basically, derivatives, why I'm speaking is from the perspective of OTC markets. Now, generally, the thing is that we as Indians are aware about certain perspective about derivatives like exchange traded derivatives, but we don't understand or we haven't studied anything related to the OTC derivatives because it is not covered in our curriculum. So I will not take much of the time in explaining what is a financial market and stuff. Yes, I will just cover a brief about what we can or what is available, right? And then I will move on to something which is related to the over the counter derivatives and something related to the exchange traded derivatives, right? So the agenda that I have created is something related to composition of financial markets, then the financial markets, the participants, the instruments, regulators, and lastly, the OTC and ETD. OTC is nothing but over the counter and exchange traded derivatives. So composition, when we speak about the composition of a financial system is pretty much simple. It has four pillars again. The four obviously there are pillars who are above over and above these, but the core is about these four pillars: the financial markets, the participants in the financial markets, the instruments, and the regulators. So generally these are considered as the pillars of the financial markets. Now when we speak about financial market, what does financial market or what does come into our minds when we speak about financial markets? Nothing but lending and borrowing, or I can say that wherever there is surplus, right, the surplus has to be deployed somewhere to get some kind of returns. Now obviously someone has a shortfall of finance, that person or that entity will either borrow the money or will take the money from you by either means. That is what we can say is a financial markets. Now, when we speak about these four pillars of the financial markets, that is about financial markets, then the participants in the financial markets, financial instruments, and regulators, the first thing that comes to our mind is the financial markets. Now, the financial market is broadly categorized into four markets. The first one being the capital markets, the second one is money market. The third, commodities. And the fourth one is Forex market. Now, capital market generally, when we speak about capital market, what comes to our mind is the secondary market, wherein we buy and sell shares. But that is not the case. That is not the only case, I'm saying. Why? Because there is a concept that is called as primary markets. A primary market is a marketplace wherein the shares, those are traded nowadays on the exchanges, are issued, right? So the primary market is a marketplace where entities or organizations, when they intend to go public, they will issue the shares through the primary markets. And subsequently, when the issue is disbursed or distributed to investors, subsequently the same issue is listed on the secondary markets. Secondary markets basically is nothing but the exchange, be it a NSE, be it a BSE. We also do have other 23 exchanges, but they are non-functional nowadays. But yes, these are the primary markets which are responsible for any kind of buying and selling of shares. That is the secondary markets. Primary markets is issuance of stocks or shares, and the secondary markets, we can say, is where entities change ownership between themselves. That is what a secondary market is. Now, primary market as well as the secondary market is more to do with the debt instruments and equity instruments. The next one is the money market. So the capital market is more to do with the long-term investing or long-term borrowing. Whereas when we speak about money market, it is all to do with short-term investing or short-term borrowing. So if a organization requires some kind of funding for a period of time or shorter tenure, maybe for 15 days or 3 months or something like that, is where this particular concept of money market comes into picture. So basically the instruments those are considered in money market are commercial papers, T-bills. T-bills are nothing but treasury bills, call money and notice money. This particular concept is not meant for organizations. This particular concept is meant only for banks. If there is any kind of lending and borrowing done between banks, that particular lending borrowing is what is called as call money and notice money. And yes, you might be amazed to see the fourth one, that is certificate of deposit. Now, certificate of deposit can be for a period which can extend up to 5 years. But yes, even in that case, a certificate of deposit is considered in money markets. The third market is commodities market.
Yes, I'm so sorry, Anirudh. Can you
Yeah,
also use Hindi while explaining so that, mix if you use, people will be able to understand better.
well, definitely.
Yes,
I
thank you.
will try to. Not that fluent with Hindi, but फिर भी देखता हूँ कितना मैं मैनेज कर सकता हूँ, because as I said, ये सारे terminologies तो इंग्लिश में ही होंगी, so won't be that easier to speak in Hindi. Sorry.
That's fair.
Right.
Yeah.
So the third market is the commodities market. Commodities, as the name itself signifies, commodities, right? Any kind of buying and selling that is related to any non-financial asset class is what we call as a commodity. For example, any kind of so something like gold or silver or any kind of metal, agricultural commodities, all these commodities or these asset classes, they fall under the concept of commodities market. So commodities market again can be bifurcated into three different types. One is soft commodities, hard commodities, and energy commodities. Soft commodities are, we can say, those commodities which can be generated or which can be created by human beings. For example, any kind of agricultural produce is considered as a soft commodity. When we speak about hard commodities are those which are ideally, you can say, mined or drilled, and which are fixed in nature. So all the precious metals, crude oil, or metals, these are considered as hard commodities. And the last one is about energy. Again, the concept of hard commodities, one comes into energy commodity, that is crude oil, or even trading in electricity and stuff is what is done in commodities market. So generally, we don't understand this perspective of trading into electricity, but even electricity is traded nowadays. And lastly, it is about the forex market. Forex market is nothing but currency markets wherein you buy different currencies. So any kind of buying and selling of currencies is done through the forex market. Now, when we speak about forex market, we can say that any kind of import and export related uh, transactions, if they have to be fulfilled, or if you tend to safeguard yourself against any kind of fluctuation in the currencies, that is what can be taken care of in the forex market. Right, this was about the financial markets. Then comes the participants in the financial markets. The participants specifically we can say are investment banks, retail or corporate banks, then mutual funds or pension funds and hedge funds. Then something about the stock exchanges.
Yes. So we have a few questions in the chat box as well from the last slide. So Mayuri is asking, what is the difference between secondary market and so secondary market and secondary market, both the same question it is. And then there is another question which says, Jayesh says, is Bitcoin in traded in forex market? So
No. So the concept of Bitcoin is totally different. It is not considered in forex market, but it is considered in cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin or Doji and stuff, all these are considered as cryptocurrencies. They don't fall under the concept of forex markets.
okay. And Jaideep is asking why mostly rupee value depends on dollar too. So
Uh, it is related to the exchange or the exchange between the countries. So if I say that there is excessive, uh, I would say excessive export from our side, then obviously we will require lower dollars, and we will get higher rupees. Subsequently, the currency will depreciate. But now, because we have requirement related to dollars, it happens that the prices of uh, dollar or the dollar will appreciate against a Indian rupee. And primarily, it is not only related to the Indian markets, but it is more to do with the global financial markets. Why? Because uh, a dollar is considered or is something that is, we can say, a globally accepted currency. So any kind of transactions executed anywhere in the world, right? They are done through only three currencies. So first one is US dollars. The second one is Great British Pound. But nowadays the value of Great British Pound has dropped down. And the third one is the euro. And obviously there are some parts of the world wherein Japanese yen is also accepted. But primarily it is the American dollar which is considered as the accepted currency. Subsequently, everyone is running behind what you can say is a dollar, and hence there is a higher demand. So if there is higher demand and lower supply, obviously the pricing is likely to appreciate. What are
Yes.
the type
Thank
of
you so much.
energy is trade and commodities market? So as I said, energy, anything and everything related to energy, be it a crude oil, be it electricity, all these things, or maybe, so we speak about crude only. But if we speak about crude, again, there is something that is called as NYMEX crude. There is something that is called as Brent crude. All these things which are related to generation of power or energy are considered in the energy market, or are considered as energy commodities.
Yes. Can you move to the previous slide once?
Yeah, sure.
And as we can see, the chat box is flooded with questions.
So
So,
when we change dollar to Indian currency, how much tax? There is no concept of tax. But the thing is that there is something that we call is exchange difference. So have you ever been to maybe any of the larger banks? So a HDFC Bank or a Kotak Bank or something like, over there, they have a board available which states you buy at and you sell at. So if we say a dollar itself, a dollar, when we say you buy at 85, you sell at 83, this is the differential, or this is the spread. It is not nothing to do with the taxability. It is more to do with the exchange or exchange rates.
okay. Deep, do you have any question?
Capital market. Okay, so capital market, when we say capital market is a bigger concept. Now, any kind of, yeah, Deep, I couldn't get your question. Sorry. Right. So capital market is a marketplace wherein entities raise funds, right? Primarily, it is more to do with the long-term funding. So long-term funding is primarily done with these two concepts. That is about a debt instrument or an equity instrument, right? Now, when we speak about, sorry, Abhishek, I will just get back to you. When we speak about the capital markets, right, and specifically about equity and debt, so any kind of fundraising that is for a period of long term, that particular thing is done through the done through the capital markets. The initial phase wherein organizations, they raise funds, right, that is done through the primary markets. And subsequently, when the issue is disbursed to the investors, and subsequently, whenever there is any kind of changing of hands or buying and selling of the securities, that is what falls under the purview of the secondary markets. Ah, well, Chaitrali, let me get back to you. I have covered this particular aspect of equity and debt in the later stage, or
Yes.
in the later segment.
Thank you, Anirudh. So, a lot of learners are asking if you can
Sure.
also use Hindi so that, maybe they'll
Ha,
be able to understand better. If you can at least, the terminologies cannot be used in Hindi naturally, but if you
ha.
can explain a bit, that will be helpful.
Right. प्राइमरी मार्केट, सेकेंडरी मार्केट, विच, सो जहाँ जब हम लोग बात करते हैं प्राइमरी मार्केट्स के बारे में, जब भी फंड रेजिंग का काम किया जाता है, जब भी वेन एवर कोई प्राइवेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, So there is a difference between a private organization and a public organization. जो entity public holding नहीं है, that is called, और वो कहा जाता है प्राइवेट लिमिटेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. सो लेट्स से 10 लोगों ने एक कंपनी शुरू की है, राइट, और उनका बिजनेस अच्छा चल गया है, राइट. अभी आफ्टर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम they will require a higher capital for expanding their business. जब भी वो किया जाता है, नाउ वो कैसे किया जा सकता है, तो it they go through or they go to the public to raise funds. That is done through the primary markets. And subsequently, अभी मैंने, let's say मैंने बिजनेस शुरू किया है, I went public through the primary markets, मैंने शेयर्स इशू कर दिया आपको, that is done in the primary markets. और एक बारी शेयर्स इशू करने के बाद उन शेयर्स पे मेरा जो अधिकार था वो खत्म हो गया. अभी it is all up to you. Now you are the owners of the shares. And subsequently, if I say that आपने वो एक शेयर खरीदा है 100 रुपए में, let's say वो अप्रिशिएट हो गया, वो हो गया 150 रुपया, you are comfortable with the returns that you have gained. आप क्या कर सकते हो, आप बेच सकते हो, बट आप बेच सकते हो कहां पे, सेकेंडरी मार्केट्स में. आप प्राइमरी मार्केट्स में नहीं बेच सकते. यू कैन सेल इट ओनली इन द सेकेंडरी मार्केट्स. सो any kind of subsequent buying and selling of shares can be done through the secondary markets and not through the primary markets. Getting this? How do central bank policies influence financial markets? Okay, so just a week back, RBI had reduced the interest rates, the repo rates, by 50 basis points. Did any one of you see the markets on that day, the capital markets on that day? The market has zoomed up. Specifically, why this happens is because now if repo is reduced, that means there will be higher liquidity that will be available in the system. अभी मेरे पास एक आसान सा एग्जांपल देता हूं. मैंने लोन लिया हुआ है जिसका मैं रीपेमेंट कर रहा हूं, राइट. मैं रीपेमेंट कर रहा हूं 100 रुपया. एक दिन ऐसा होगा जब मेरा लोन खत्म होगा, राइट, फिर भी वो 100 रुपए मेरे पास रहने वाले हैं. अब ये 100 रुपया क्या है मेरा, this 100 rupees is surplus available in my hand. Subsequently, I can use this money for anything that I want. In similar fashion, when the RBI or the governing entities, they reduce the lending and borrowing rates, there is a surplus available in the system. Now, obviously, मेरे पास, मैंने जैसे बोला, मेरे पास 100 रुपया आ गया. चलो एक शेयर ले लेते हैं कोई तो अच्छा सा, which can appreciate over a period of time. That is why, or that is how the financial markets is influenced by any kind of buying policies. Similar fashion, अगर repo rate बढ़ गया, मैंने लोन लिया, मेरा पे ऑफ चालू, पे इन चालू हो गया, आई हैव टू रीपे द लोन, मेरे जेब से 100 रुपया चला गया. अभी मैं कैसे, how will I be able to put the funds in stocks or in financial markets? Obviously, अगर मैं और मेरे जैसे बहुत सारे लोग, if they are not able to put the funds in the financial market, obviously the market is likely to drop. This is how the bank policies influence the financial markets.
Yes. Thank you so much for answering those questions. Learners, we will be taking the questions after, sir completes his presentation, maybe. So you can just note it down and we can open the floor. You guys can ask as many questions as you want. Thank you.
Right. So yeah, definitely I will answer. I will try to respond to each and every question that you have. Uh, Let me just take you through with the slides those are created, and then we can go ahead with your questions or with your queries that you have related to the financial markets. Uh, uh, yeah, Mani Kumar, I'm sure I will get back to English. The thing is that there are a lot of people who are not comfortable only with English, and there was a request that if I could also use vernacular language. That's the reason I shifted a bit from a English to a Hindi as well. Deepak, that will be pretty much a big task to ask to start investing or start trading from a 10 rupees perspective. Sorry to say.
Yes. Can we move to the next slide, please?
Right. Yes. So this was something related to the financial markets. Then comes the aspect of, you can say, the participants in the financial markets. Uh, So basic ones or the basic thing that we have to understand is about retail banks or corporate banks and investment banks. So generally, retail banks or corporate banks are those entities who are more of into any kind of lending and borrowing, then helping you with your bank account and stuff. That is what is taken care of by the corporate banks. Investment bank is not into any kind of lending and borrowing stuff, but they are more of into any kind of mergers, acquisitions, creating a structured product for their clients, maybe even helping their clients raise funds with the help of primary markets and issuing debt instruments or equity instruments. This is the function that is primary of the investment banks. And mutual funds or pension funds and hedge funds, you can say a mutual fund, you can say, is a pool of funds which is wherein n number of entities, they pool their funds or they deploy their funds, and the same or are invested in the financial markets by specialists. Those are called as fund managers. Hedge funds is somewhat similar to a mutual fund, but not exactly similar. Why we can say it that way is because a mutual fund has a regulatory body, whereas a hedge fund doesn't have a regulatory body over it. So a hedge fund manager can invest the funds in any and every investable asset that the investment or the fund manager feels appropriate. And a mutual fund cannot execute transactions in the derivatives market, whereas a hedge fund can deploy funds in the derivatives market as well. And the last one is in this is particularly is about pension funds. Pension funds again is a entity which deploys funds in the financial markets to generate some kind of additional profitability to the entities who have deployed funds as their as the funds they intend to get over a period of time, maybe after 10 years, 20 years, or after their retirement. Subsequently, when we speak about pension funds, again, pension funds do not invest in the derivatives market, but they invest more of in the primary markets or into something that is related to the cash markets. Then the next participant we can say is the government. Government is nothing but an entity who creates a, or who is a regulatory body. Not a necessary every time only the government will be a regulatory body, but generally for any financial market, a government is considered as a government body. For example, if we speak about Indian markets, RBI, right? RBI is an entity that is governed by the government. And subsequently, RBI is the one who creates regulations for the banks. Similarly, when we speak about the capital markets, SEBI is the regulatory body. Similarly, or we can say that is why we consider government as the regulatory body for any kind of rules and regulations. Those are to be set for any of these financial market participants. The next one is about the stock exchanges. Stock exchanges, as we spoke earlier, when we spoke about the capital markets, right? A marketplace wherein any kind of buying and selling or trading of financial instruments or non-financial instruments is done is what is called as a stock exchange, right? When we speak about, or when we specifically speak about the Indian markets, or Indian stock exchanges, as I said, BSE and NSE are the bellwethers. That is what a stock exchange is. Then comes the concept of a depository. Now, when we speak about this concept of a depository, there is a lot of confusion when we speak about depositories and a clearinghouse. These two entities are totally different entities. So a depository, we can say, is something wherein, or is the entity that safeguards the financial assets in a digital form. So it is something similar to having your bank account, but not exactly a bank account. Why? Because a bank account will hold your cash. Whereas when we speak about depositories, it is more to do with safeguarding of your financial assets apart from cash. So any kind of dematerialized stock or shares, or maybe debt instruments, or maybe mutual funds, all these financial assets are safeguarded by a depository or a depository participant. Then comes the concept of issuers. Again, when I spoke about the capital markets, I spoke that I want to raise funds. Subsequently, when I say I want to raise funds, that means I will be issuing certain financial assets to the investors, and they will be either lending the money to me, or they will be buying a part ownership in my organization, and I will be giving them, or I will be providing them with certain instrument. It can be either a bond if I am borrowing the funds. It can be a equity instrument if I am providing them with partial ownership. Then it is something about the clearinghouse. Now, how many of you have felt till date that a clearinghouse and a depository or a custodian is one and the same? Now, the thing is that a clearinghouse, we can say, is an entity that ensures that whenever a trade is executed between entities, the trade has to be settled on the date of settlement. That is what is the function of a clearinghouse, to ensure that the trade is settled on the date of settlement. Immaterial if I default on or before the date of settlement. So now if I say that a trade is executed between A and B, wherein A is the buyer and B is the seller. Now, if A defaults on or before the date of settlement, and the price has, let's say, dropped down drastically, B has sold at X price, wherein the price on the date of settlement has dropped down to X minus Y. Obviously, B will be having an impact. To ensure that this thing doesn't happen or this thing doesn't occur, the clearing house comes into picture. A clearing house is an entity who acts as a buyer for every seller and acts as a seller for every buyer. That is the function that is taken care of by a clearing house. The next one is a broker. A broker is an entity who helps entities in any kind of buying and selling of shares, buying and selling of bonds and stuff. That is what is helped by a broker. Nothing much to be explained. So you must have heard about Share Khan or Angel One or IL&FS and stuff like these entities are what are considered or are the entities who are considered as brokers who help any kind of buying and selling of financial assets. Then comes the registrars. Registrars, this particular concept is not a concept which is more of prominent in the current financial markets, but this was prominent in good old days. Whenever there were or when there were physical securities or physical shares. Now, registrar was that entity who ensured or who kept a record of the details of the holdings. That was the function. Nowadays, that is not the case. Nowadays, majority of the shares or financial instruments are in dematerialized or digital form. Subsequently, the concept of a registrar has dropped down drastically. And the last one is an investor. इन्वेस्टर आपके मेरे जैसे जिनके पास थोड़ा बहुत पैसा बचा हुआ होता है, जो यहाँ पैसा डालो वहां पैसा डालो करते हैं. मे बी किसी के पास थोड़ा ज्यादा होता है, किसी के पास थोड़ा कम होता है, right? So someone will invest into fixed deposit, someone might invest into debt instruments, someone might invest into equity instruments. That function is what is taken care of by, or that is what a investor is. Now, investor, this is the primary investor definition, but investors are of two different types. One is a retail investor, and then there is something that is called as institutional investors. So, जैसे मैंने थर्ड पॉइंटर में बोला था, म्यूचुअल फंड, हेज फंड, पेंशन फंड्स, these entities are called as institutional investors. Now, retail investors are those which have a limited amount to be deployed in the financial markets, whereas institutional investors, they have bulk of funds to be deployed in the financial markets. That is what is the difference between institutional investors and retail investors. Right? Right, that has more to do about what you can say about the participants in the financial markets. Then comes the financial instruments. The ones, those are instrument, those where we deploy the funds. Right. So the first one is stocks. Stocks is nothing but equities or equity shares. Right. As I spoke in the concept of financial markets, primary markets, secondary markets. This is the instrument which gives the holder partial ownership in the organization. So अगर मेरे पास कोई equity है, let's say मैंने ना Infosys के 10 शेयर लिए हुए हैं या एक शेयर लिया हुआ है, let's say about एक शेयर, मैंने एक शेयर लिया है हुआ है Infosys का, I am the owner, not full owner but partial owner. So अगर 1 crore shares total है Infosys के, then that is the percentage of ownership that I have. 0.00001%. इतना ही है ओनरशिप, but I am owner of Infosys. That is what a stock is. The second one is bond. Bond, जब भी मैं किसी को funds lend करता हूं, I give money to certain entity. So government को देता हूं, I lend money to organizations, I lend money to some banks, right? Or maybe any entity who requires funding. Now obviously when I say that I am giving money, मैं ऐसे तो नहीं दे दूंगा, मेरे पास मैं कुछ तो लिखा पढ़ी तो मांगूंगा कि भाई मैं पैसा तो दे रहा हूं, उसके लिए कुछ तो दे मुझे लिख के कि बाबा तू इतने दिनों बाद पैसे वापस करेगा और स्टफ. दैट इज व्हाट इज अ बॉन्ड. Now, a bond and a debenture is somewhat similar, not exactly, but somewhat similar. But wherein we can say, when we speak about bonds, there is some kind of security deposit that is allocated for bonds. Whereas when we speak about debentures, it is purely basis the goodwill of the entity, right? So a basic example, अगर मैं आपसे पैसे मांगू, right? No one is going to lend me the money. But if the same fashion, Charulata asks you for funds, you might lend her the money. Why is that so? Because you are not aware about me. Subsequently, I don't have credibility with you. But Charulata has some credibility with you. Subsequently, you might lend the money to her. That is what happens with a debenture, wherein there is no security deposit. Then the next one is GSEC. GSEC is nothing but government securities. It is also a type of a bond, but it is issued by the government, which is considered as the safest of investments. Yes. Now, when we speak about safety, whenever there is higher safety, the returns will be on the lower side. And the similar thing happens with government securities or GSEC instruments. So because there is some kind of a backing from the government for these particular instruments, the returns on these instruments are pretty much on the lower side because there is no risk factor, or I would say lower risk factor. Subsequently, the returns on GSEC is pretty much on the lower side, but it is also a type of a bond wherein the issuance is done for the government or by the government. Then the next one is about Forex or currency. Again, as I had spoken in the financial markets, that when we speak about any kind of hedging perspective or any kind of buying and selling of currencies, so अगर मैं एक्सपोर्टर हूँ, मैंने कुछ तो एक्सपोर्ट किया, या फिर लेट्स टेक इट द अदर वे अराउंड, अगर मैं इंपोर्टर हूँ, मैंने कुछ इंपोर्ट किया, लेट्स से मैंने इंपोर्ट किया यूएसए से. Now, when I have to make the payment, मैं तो इंडियन रुपीज में नहीं दे सकता ना यूएस एंटिटी को. I have to convert my rupees into dollar denomination, and then I can make the payments. That is what can be done by the forex or the currency markets, or that is what falls under the purview of financial instrument, that is a forex or a currency. The next one is commodities. Again, मुझे कुछ भी खरीदना है which is related to gold, silver in bulk, maybe for hedging purpose, maybe for speculative purpose, or maybe for a arbitrage purpose. That is what is done by me through a commodities. Then warrants and money market instruments. Again, these are instruments which are primarily used for period of time. So money market instruments, short-term lending and borrowing is done. Warrants is a type of an instrument which is related to a derivative. Again, so nowadays this concept of warrant is not prevalent, But in good old days, this concept of warrants was there. So if any one of you would have heard about Tata Steel warrants, that was a type of a option which was provided by Tata Steel long back. Or if you have heard about Tata Motors DVR, I'm uh, pretty much sure that you mustn't have heard this particular concept, because it is not that uh, prevalent or that tradable in the markets. Yes, but this concept of warrants is traded in the OTC markets, not in the on the exchanges. And then the last one is a derivative. What is, by the way, any idea what is a derivative? Can someone write what can be considered as a derivative in the chat, or if you can speak out? Fine. Let's take that thing for a later stage. I will just speak right now, and then maybe if you have questions, we will take it at a later time. Okay, so a derivative, you can say, is a financial instrument that doesn't have a value of its own, but it derives its value from an underlying asset. I can understand if this is too much of English, but for ease of understanding, let me give you an easier example. Now, if I say uh, milk and let's say butter, दूध और घी, घी का कुछ प्राइस हो सकता है, ऐसे ही बोल दिया आपको घी का प्राइस बोल दो, can you decipher the price of a ghee? Obviously no. Till the time you are not aware about the price of milk, you will not be able to gauge the pricing of butter. In the same fashion, a derivative is an instrument जिसका खुद का वैल्यू कुछ नहीं है, but it derives its value from underlying asset or a set of underlying assets. That is basically what a derivative is. Right? And the last one is about the regulatory bodies. Now, a regulatory body, we can say, is an entity who creates rules and regulations for the participants in the markets, or I would say in the financial markets. So FRB, Federal Reserve Board, is an entity who creates rules and regulations for the American markets or the American banks. RBI, as you might be aware. So RBI is the apex body or the central bank of Indian markets or Indian financial markets, who comes up or who sets the rules and regulations for banks in India. Same as FRB. Then the one below RBI is SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, the entity who we can say governs or creates rules and regulations for the stock exchanges or the financial markets in the Indian context. SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, similar to a SEBI, but sits in the US. Again, a CFTC is somewhat similar, but it is a watchdog. Again, sitting in the US, not related to the Indian markets, but more of to do with the US markets. Right? And the last one is about, you can say, the FATF, Financial Action Task Force. Financial Action Task Force is more to do with any kind of money laundering or anything related to anti-money laundering. That particular thing is what is taken care of or ensured this thing doesn't happen, is taken care of by the entity that is called as FATF. that is Financial Action Task Force. This is about the entities, or this is about the basic four pillars in the financial markets. And lastly, it is about the OTC and exchange traded derivatives. Now, when we speak about OTC and exchange traded derivatives, what we don't know or what we don't understand is more to do about the OTC derivatives. Yes, a lot of people might be aware about the exchange traded derivatives, right? So, where are these particular instruments traded? Obviously, when we speak about exchange traded, obviously they will be traded on the exchanges. Now, when we speak about the contract size for an exchange traded derivative, it is a standardized contract. 175 शेयर्स निफ्टी के ट्रेड करना है तो 75 यूनिट्स का ही करना पड़ेगा. यू कैनॉट मेक अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ 50 और यू कैनॉट मेक अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ 100. 75 का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, 75 का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ही होगा. एंड on the last Thursday, the contract will expire. It is fixed. You cannot change the, or you cannot customize as per your requirement. That is fixed. That is what is related to the exchanges. Then transparency and regulation. As I said about a SEBI. Now, SEBI is the entity who creates rules and regulations and framework for the exchange traded derivatives. These things are fixed. Then something about counterparty risk. So remember, I spoke about clearing houses, an entity who ensures or who acts as a buyer for every seller and acts as a seller for every buyer. This particular concept comes in for an exchange traded derivative. Subsequently, the risk element is pretty much on the lower side, or we can say it is pretty much negligible. And because it is a standardized contract, it is liquid and it has accessibility. So if I say something like a standardization, so if I say I go to a Levi's stores, right? Levi's का denims लेता हूं मैं, it will be similar. So ऐसा नहीं है कि मैंने कुछ Levi's का specific denim tailor करके लिया है, right? अगर मैं ना लूं तो और कोई ले लेगा, और कोई नहीं तो और कोई. It is pretty much liquid. उसमें कोई ऐसे नहीं है कि ये specific है, right? And the last one is about derivative classes. So when we speak about derivative classes, exchange traded, there are only two derivative classes, that is a future and a option. That is all we have for derivative classes for exchange traded derivatives. But now when we speak about over the counter derivatives, right, the trading environment, there is no platform, right? It can be done over phone call, it can be done through an email, it can be done sitting across the counter. Anything and everything is possible for a over the counter derivative. Then क्योंकि दो आदमी हैं ट्रेड में, आमने सामने बैठे हुए हैं, right? As I said, for a Nifty, when we speak about exchange traded, 75 का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है जो लास्ट थर्सडे को एक्सपायर होगा. बट अगर मैं बोलूं कि हम लोग सामने सामने बैठे हैं, चल मेरे को ना 100 शेयर्स का 100 यूनिट्स का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करना है, एंड आई डोंट वांट इट टू सेटल ऑन द लास्ट थर्सडे, बट आई वांट टू सेटल इट ऑन द सेकंड थर्सडे ऑफ नेक्स्ट मंथ. अगर मेरा काउंटर पार्टी एग्री करता है, then it is pretty much easier. It can be negotiated as per the requirement of the entities when we speak about over the counter derivatives, right? And जब भी मैं ऐसे कस्टमाइजेशन बोलूं, लेट्स से दो लोग आमने सामने बैठे हैं, उसमें कुछ रेगुलेशन तो होगा ही नहीं, क्योंकि दो लोग सामने सामने बैठते हैं, जो कुछ डिसाइड करेंगे, there is no regulatory body in that. Subsequently, we can say there is no regulation, there is no transparency. Same thing happens with the counterparty risk subsequently, right? दो लोग ही हैं, third party तो है ही नहीं कोई to ensure that if one entity defaults, क्या होगा वो बोलने के लिए तो कोई है ही नहीं. तो क्या हो सकता है? काउंटर पार्टी डिफॉल्ट. लेट्स से मैंने कुछ तो बाय किया हुआ है, किसी और ने सेल करा हुआ है. लेट्स से ऑन द डेट ऑफ सेटलमेंट जो मैंने खरीदा था उसका भाव ना आधा हो गया है. आपको क्या लगता है ओटीसी ट्रांजैक्शन में मैं मेरा ऑब्लिगेशन फुलफिल करूंगा? ऑब्वियसली आई विल नॉट, बिकॉज यहाँ पे मैंने 100 रुपए में लिया है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में, जबकि अभी मुझे मार्केट में मिल रहा है 50 रुपए में. मैं क्यों लूंगा आपसे? Obviously, I would prefer to default on the transaction. That is where the concept of counterparty risk comes into picture. The second last is about liquidity. Now, जो contract हमने करा हुआ है, not necessary it will be as per the requirement of some other entity. उसको कुछ नहीं वैसे नहीं चाहिए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, उसको चाहिए बट हाँ 100 शेयर्स का ही चाहिए, बट मे बी लास्ट थर्सडे ऑफ नेक्स्ट मंथ का सेटलमेंट चाहिए या फिर थर्ड थर्सडे ऑफ नेक्स्ट मंथ का चाहिए, बट हमने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया हुआ है सेकंड थर्सडे ऑफ नेक्स्ट मंथ. वी हैव कस्टमाइज्ड इट एज पर आवर रिक्वायरमेंट. Subsequently, it becomes pretty much illiquid. That is a drawback of OTC transaction. And lastly, about the derivative classes. Now, when we speak about exchange traded, there are only two derivative classes. When we speak about over the counter, there are n number of derivative classes. Those are available. So the basics are forwards, options, and swaps. But anything and everything that falls under the umbrella of a derivative is traded in the OTC markets, or that can be traded in the OTC markets. There is no restriction for trading of any asset class and any derivative class in OTC markets. Well, this is what I have from my side. Now I am ready to take your questions. That's all from my side. If you have any questions, I am willing to answer or ready to answer. Sorry. Charulata,
Yes.
you're on. Sorry.
Yes, I'm so sorry I was on mute. Learners, please feel free to ask your questions. Meanwhile, we have a lot of other questions in the chat box. So Aniruddha, maybe you can take a look to that. And
Hello.
yes, who was that? Learners, you can put your questions in the chat box.
Okay, depository and issuers. Sorry. So depository, as I said, is a entity that safeguards your financial assets. So it is something similar to your bank, but not necessarily 100% similar to your bank, because what happens is
Yes, you can continue with the answer, Aniruddha.
right. So not necessarily 100% similar to your financial or to your bank account, but somewhat similar, wherein when we speak about a bank is an entity that holds your asset, financial assets in the form of cash. So whatever is the amount deposited, that is credited to your account and that you can see in your bank account, right? But when we speak about financial assets, now when I say something like a stock or something like a bond, right? Now these instruments are not retained physically. They are more of retained in a physical manner, in a digital manner, right? Now, who will be able to hold these digital assets? Digital assets are held by depositories, which is similar to a bank, right?
Yes. So someone says what uh, Digambar. Digambar is asking stock market meaning. Can you please answer?
Sorry, I couldn't get you.
Digambar is asking what is the meaning of stock market. Maybe he's trying to understand the stock market better.
Right, a stock market. A stock market is a marketplace wherein you can buy and sell shares, you can buy and sell something like a bond, maybe even commodities or forex. That is what a, sorry, if you speak specifically about stock market, it is more to do with the buying and selling of stocks. So मैंने जैसे बोला था कि मैंने एक इन्फोसिस का शेयर लिया हुआ है, मैंने लिया हुआ है एक्स प्राइस में, आज उसका प्राइस चल रहा है एक्स प्लस वाई, आई एम हैप्पी विद द रिटर्न्स दैट आई एम गेटिंग, आई कैन सेल इट. बट नाउ अगर मैं किसी के पास जाता हूं पर्सनली सेल करने के लिए, then it might be, it might happen that चल रहा है 200 रुपया, but he is asking me at maybe 150 rupees. But if I sell it on the stock exchange, right, I will have a transparency कि मैं 200 रुपए का भाव चल रहा है, 200 रुपए में बेच सकता. That is what a stock market is, a entity or a marketplace wherein you can buy and sell off your shares and change ownership.
Yes. So we have another question from Sheetal. Who regulates depositories?
Depositories.
Depository. I am so sorry.
Yeah, sure. Depositories again falls under the purview of SEBI, because anything and everything that is related to stocks or financial assets other than cash will fall under the purview of SEBI in India, SEC in the US.
Yes. So Sujay is asking, did you explain example of exchange trade and OTC?
Sorry, I couldn't get.
So Sujay is asking, please explain with examples of exchange trades traded and OTC.
Right. सूर्य, एक सिंपल एग्जांपल लेता हूँ. लेट्स से मैं ना एक फार्मर हूँ, राइट. आई एम प्रोड्यूसिंग व्हीट इन माय फार्म. लेट्स से मेरे पास ना 1000 क्विंटल गेहूं होने वाला है. आज नहीं होने वाला है, बट मे बी 2 महीने बाद होने वाला है. लेट्स से बाय द 31st of August, राइट. नाउ मेरे को थोड़ा सा सेफ गार्ड करना है खुद को, राइट. अभी गेहूं का भाव चल रहा है 100 रुपया. मुझे लगता है सारा कुछ ना, बिकॉज ऑफ द क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशन, जो बारिश हो रही है एंड स्टफ लाइक, उसकी वजह से बम्पर क्रॉप होगा, राइट. So I want to safeguard myself. What I do is I come to you, Sujay. I tell you, let's say you are a bread maker. I come to you and tell you that I will deliver you X quantity of wheat, not today, but on the 31st of August. Now, if this particular transaction is done only between you and me, that becomes a OTC transaction, over the counter derivative transaction. But when we speak that I want to buy a Nifty, which is dated the last Thursday of next month, that is what can be said as a exchange traded derivative. Clear on this, Sujay? Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. So there are a lot of questions in the chat box.
Right.
Aniruddha?
Vinash, I am holding 500 shares of XYZ company and holding MF. Generally, this thing cannot happen. That you will not have hold the shares and the MF, because the thing is that when we speak about, yes, so if you are speaking about exchange traded fund, it is a different concept. It is not considered as a share. But when we say you are holding MF, then you can't hold shares. If you are holding shares, you cannot hold mutual fund, because the thing is that these two are totally different entities, or these two are different, what do you say, aspects for investing.
Okay,
Ah,
so
SIP is safe for investments, doubtless. So SIP, what happens is that now, frankly speaking, I have spent something like 15, 16 years in the financial markets. No one can time the market precisely. So it cannot happen that I have purchased the stock at the lowest price. No, it cannot happen. Yes, you can invest at a low price, but not the lowest price. Subsequently, when you start investing, it is always safe to invest through a SIP. And it will not also not happen that I have exited at the highest price. No, वैसे कभी नहीं होता. So whenever you are investing, whenever you are withdrawing, for investing, use a SIP. For taking the money back, use a SWP. SWP is a systematic withdrawal plan.
yes, a lot of learners are asking about what is Forex. Can you please explain it again?
Right. So Forex is nothing but the marketplace wherein entities can buy and sell currencies. So when we speak about, uh, so as I said that me being an importer, I am importing something, right? Now, when I import, let's say I import iPhones from America, right? For him to deliver iPhones, it becomes pretty much easier. But now when I say I have to make the payments, मेरे पास तो Indian rupees है. If I pay Indian rupees, will it make any kind of sense to him? Obviously, it will not make sense. Subsequently, what needs to be done by me is I will have to convert my Indian rupees into American dollars and make the payments. Right? Now, this particular concept of buying and selling of currencies is what is called as currency market. It is also called as Forex market. When we speak about Indian markets, we have a pair of 4 currencies in India as of today. One is USD, INR, EUR, INR. EUR is Euro and Indian rupees. Then it is GBP, Great British Pound versus Indian rupees. And the last one is JPY INR, Japanese yen, Indian rupees. So, as I said, USD INR. A USD in this particular transaction will be considered as a base currency. Indian rupee will be considered as a quote currency. So for one US dollar, how much Indian rupees am I willing to pay, or how much Indian rupees am I willing to accept, is how the quotations will be provided for executing transactions in the Forex market.
Yes. So Atul has been asking from a while what is yield cover in fire curve in finance
Uh,
market, and
well,
what is the biggest challenge in financial market? How do we overcome such challenges?
Well, the concept of yield or the yield to maturity is not a concept that will be that can be explained in a span of 5 to 10 minutes. Frankly speaking, it will take a lot of time. So I will just try to give a basic of what is a yield to maturity and stuff. So if I say that I have purchased an instrument, let's say a bond, XYZ company's bond, or let's say a government bond, right? Now, government bond that has been purchased by me gives me a yield or a coupon or interest of, let's say, 10% per annum, right? Now, this particular 10% per annum will be for the tenure of the instrument, that is for 10 years, let's say. The tenure is, let's say, of 10 years. So I will be getting 10% returns on the deployed funds for the period of 10 years. That 10% is what my yield is. So my yield for that particular instrument till the date of settlement is 100%. So I have deployed 100 rupees. I get 10% at every interval. So after completion of 1 year, I get 10 rupees. Second year, another 10 rupees, and subsequently till the last date. But now if I say, so my yield is 10% till maturity. But now if I say that the interest rate drops down, that means the interest rate has come down from a 10% in the economy. RBI ने ना repo rate change कर दिया और interest rate नीचे आ गया. Let's say it has come down to 8%. अगर 8% पे आता है तो मेरे बॉन्ड का प्राइसिंग जो है ना वो बढ़ जाता है. क्यों बढ़ता है? क्योंकि वो इंस्ट्रूमेंट मुझे 10% रिटर्न दे रहा है, जबकि आज लिया हुआ इंस्ट्रूमेंट मुझे देगा 8% रिटर्न. सो वो जो पैरिटी है, इट हैज टू, इसमें पैरिटी नहीं रही अभी, तो वो पैरिटी पे आने के लिए मेरे इंस्ट्रूमेंट का या डेट बॉन्ड का प्राइसिंग बढ़ जाता है, सो दैट माय इंटरेस्ट यील्ड कम्स टू 8%. But my initial or the market value of my bond will go on the higher side. That is how you calculate the yield and yield to maturity. Now, अगर 10 साल तक 10% रहा तो my yield is 10%. But now because my interest rate or the market rate of my bond has gone on the higher side, let's say 1100 रुपया भाव हो गया अगर उसका, मेरे बॉन्ड का प्राइस व्हेन आई डिप्लॉयड द फंड्स वाज 100 रुपीज, 110 रुपया हो गया, कंसिडर करते हैं, सॉरी नॉट 1100, 110 रुपीज. नाउ व्हेन आई डिप्लॉयड द फंड्स इट वाज एट 100 रुपीज एंड आई वाज गेटिंग 10 रुपीज और 10% एज रिटर्न, राइट? बट अभी उसी इंस्ट्रूमेंट का मार्केट प्राइस चेंज हुआ है 110. मुझे रिटर्न कितना मिलने वाला है, इंटरेस्ट कितना मिलने वाला है? वही 10 रुपया. बराबर है. मेरा इंटरेस्ट तो चेंज नहीं हुआ है, राइट? बट नाउ माय यील्ड हैज चेंज्ड. पहले जो 10% यील्ड था वो अभी 9.1314% हो गया है. क्यों? क्योंकि मेरे इंस्ट्रूमेंट का वैल्यूएशन ऊपर गया है 110 पे. उसके वजह से मेरे इंस्ट्रूमेंट का यील्ड कम हो गया है. मुझे मिलने वाले 10 रुपए हैं, वो चेंज नहीं हुआ है. Got it?
Yes. Thank you so much, Aniruddha, for such a wonderful session. So, as a token of appreciation, we would like to present you with the certificate.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yes. Just a moment. Yes. So
Right.
thank you so much, Anirudh, for such an amazing, amazing session. I hope that most of us has got a lot to know from you today. We are still open for the questions, learners. So feel free to ask as many questions as you want.
Right.
We are still getting a lot of questions in the chat box. Someone has unmuted themselves. Yes.
What about small cap? I think so. It is written, Chaitanya. Small cap. It is a risky proposition any times, unless you have deployed majority of the funds into large caps, into investable stuff, right? You should not go in for small caps. Yes, small caps are those ones which can give you phenomenal returns, but the chances are that whatever is the deploy or whatever are the deployed funds might even vanish. So yes, it is a risky case, not a safe case. What is different type of market? Consumer, industrial, finance, financial. Sorry, I couldn't get your question, Sujata. How do we start this thing from zero? Like, and what is intraday? Uh, intraday trading, my brother, is nothing but buying and selling, and or other way around, selling and buying of securities in the day itself. So market opens at 9:15, ends at 3:30. 9:15 के बाद कुछ तो लो, 3:30 से पहले बेच दो, या अदर वे अराउंड, 9:15 के बाद कुछ तो बेचो, 3:30 से पहले वापस ले लो. That is what is called as intraday trading. Nothing apart from that. So you need to understand the nitty-gritties about something that is called as equity scripts and trade for trade scripts. Then you will be able to execute transactions in intraday trading. Not a easier aspect to understand. Sorry to say that.
Yes. So we have Pooja asking what is hedging, sir?
So hedging is an aspect uh, wherein you safeguard or you transfer or you mitigate the risk associated with your holding. Easiest example to understand is a insurance. When you buy a medical insurance, or let's say a insurance as a whole, what you are doing, you are mitigating the risk of any kind of mishap and giving the rest to someone else. अगर मुझे कुछ होता है, अगर मुझे मेडिकल एक्सपेंसेस आते हैं, right, those medical expenses will be taken care of by the organization. Say, let's say ACO ले लिया या Oriental Insurance ले लिया. That is what is hedging. Similarly, when we speak about the financial markets, when I transfer the risk to a third party, that is what is called as hedging. So जैसे मैंने एग्जाम्पल दिया था सुजय को, और मैंने मेरा एग्जाम्पल लिया था कि मेरे फार्म में ना बन रहा है गेहूं, बट that is not ready as of now. That will be ready by the 31st of August. But now, as I said, okay, I'm executing a derivative transaction with Sujay as of today. Now, what am I doing in this case is I am hedging that if the price of wheat drops down from 100 rupees to, let's say, 95 rupees, I will not get impacted. So what I had done is I had transferred the risk from my side to Sujay's side. भाई अब ये तेरा फार्म है, राइट, 31 अगस्त को जो भी प्रोड्यूस रहेगा वो मैं तुझे 100 रुपए में दे दूंगा. अगर 95 रुपया होता है मार्केट में, आई एम नॉट इंटरेस्टेड और आई एम नॉट कंसर्न इन दैट केस, क्योंकि मैंने तो वो बेच दिया है एट द रेट ऑफ 100 रुपीज. दैट इज व्हाट इज डन इन hedging. Well, Suyash, current scenario of market and stuff, we will discuss it on a different platform, not on this platform. This is more to do with the execution of transactions and generating profitability. I'm not interested, or I'm not keen on discussing about the profitability in this forum. Yes, you can, we can discuss it in a private forum. What is IPO? IPO is nothing but initial public offering. So whenever there is any kind of raising of funds that is done by organizations, when they go public, right, when they issue shares to general public, that is what is done in an IPO. Difference between intraday, futures, and options. Okay, intraday is particularly buying and selling within a day, as I said. A futures and an option is a derivative product, right, wherein I get a time frame. A future specifically is an exchange traded derivative, right, wherein I get a time frame. So if we speak about Indian markets, in Indian markets, the futures expire on the last Thursday of every month. So अगर मैंने आज futures का transaction किया, तो मुझे इस महीने के last Thursday तक का time मिलता है. मैंने options किया, तो options is more specific to exchange rate. Options are also traded in the OTC markets, but in the OTC markets, those are called as exotic options and not options. But when we speak about options related to exchange traded, option basically is an instrument that gives the buyer a right, but not an obligation to buy or sell the underlying. This is a complex definition, not meant for explaining in a few words, but it will take time. But yes, there is a vast difference between intraday, futures, as well as options. A stark difference.
Yes. Thank you so much for answering those questions, Anirudh. So we will be
Thank you.
taking two more questions and then we will conclude the session.
Sure.
Yes. So Manas Hingne has asked what investors should expect return on this investment in mutual fund for over the time of 5 to 10 years and what risk should be considered.
See, you cannot speak anything about the returns, because the thing is that a mutual fund, the returns on a mutual fund are always considered with aspect to the benchmark index. So if we say the benchmarking is a Nifty, right? If Nifty has given a return of 15%, right? And if your mutual fund has given a return of, let's say, 20%, right? It is definitely, it can be considered as a beneficial proposition wherein you are getting a return of 20%, wherein the benchmark has given a return of 15%. Now, each and every mutual fund will have their own compositions, right? You need to take into account what is the composition of that particular mutual fund, and then we can speak about what will be the returns. But currently, the India story is actually shining, and I don't see any kind of yeah, there might be some hiccups in the financial markets, but it is a shining story as of now.
Great. So there's another question from Nilesh. Which investment is free from risk? He asks.
यार वैसे भी नहीं बोल सकता. I can't even say about investment of keeping the money in my pocket. मेरे शर्ट का जेब फट गया तो पैसा चला जाएगा. So any investment in the financial markets is never considered as risky. There will be some element of risk associated, be it whatever, there will be an element of risk. It can be to the extent of 0.1% or 0.01%, but it will never be risk-free investment. Never.
Okay. So another question, I know I said two questions. Yeah, a lot of questions are there. Our learners are willing to know a lot. So let's take a few more.
Sure.
Right. So Daksh is asking, how do we start this thing from zero and then intraday trading? And should we go from intraday trading? If yes, then how? And if no, then what is the alternative for this thing? Also, please explain IPO, small cap, and mid cap funds. So,
Okay. So going from a zero to that is a thing that you will have to invest time in. So it cannot be done in a short span. It will take nothing less than 10 years minimum, I'm saying. It is not only about money, because the thing is that money will come and go instantly, or might come and go instantly. But you need to be able to understand, you need to understand and gauge the risk associated with investing, right? All these things is, after you understand all these particular nitty-gritties, is when you will be, or you can say that now, yes, I have come from a zero to a 10 or a 20. Anyone who is investing cannot say that I have gone anything beyond a 60% or a 70% of knowledge. Nothing beyond that.
great.
And
Okay,
now,
so,
when we speak about specifically
so
about large cap funds, mid cap funds, and small cap funds, large cap funds are those funds wherein the deployment of funds is done into large cap stocks. So basically, all the Nifty 50 or the blue chip companies are considered as large cap funds. Those organizations, those do not have something like a amazing future, but they are at a stage wherein they have achieved everything, and now they are sitting stable. That is what can be said as a large cap fund. So any organization or any stock that has a market capitalization anything beyond $50 billion, sorry, beyond $500 billion, is considered as a large cap stock. When we speak about mid cap, are those entities which are in the phase of growth. They have a lot of potential to achieve something outstanding, right? Subsequently, these stocks might give a higher return over a period of time. Yes, the plus point with large cap stocks is that they will not be providing you with outstanding price appreciation, but they will be providing you with some kind of returns like a dividend. But mid cap stocks are those stocks which will not be giving you or providing you with a fixed dividend. but they will be giving you or providing you with capital appreciation. आज 100 रुपए का स्टॉक है, कल 120 हो गया, कल as in after 1 year it has appreciated by 20%, after 2 years it has appreciated by another 40%, and so something like that is what is possible with a mid cap stock. But these stocks will not give you dividend. And small caps are those stocks which are like, you can say something like a mushroom, frankly speaking. So they might give you an outstanding return if the idea clicks. But if not, whatever are the funds, those are being deployed by you, will go down the drain. 100 rupees deployed, right? It can become 1,000 rupees. It can become 1 rupee. Quite possible with small caps. So the risk reward with small caps is the highest, wherein the risk will be highest, the rewards will be highest. With large cap, the risk reward is the least. You will not get outstanding returns. You will not have a risk that is too big.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anirudh. Thank you so much for answering all the questions beautifully and full of knowledge. I hope our learners are, happy with the session, happy with all the knowledge that they have got. And before we conclude this session, is there any platform that you would like to share with our learners, or any, website, anything like that where they can know more about finance?
Now the thing is that I have recently started my own venture that is about derivative excellence. I am in the process of creating my own website. There is no website per se, but yes, I have my what do you say? I have my own email address related to derivative excellence. If you have any questions or queries, you can write to me, because I'm starting my own courses as well related to these particular uh, requirement of students.
Yes.
I
Okay.
will just write down my
Hello,
what do you say,
hello.
email address. Yeah, Deep.
Yes.
Sorry.
Am I clear, sir?
Yeah, you're audible.
Sir, I have to ask a question.
Yeah,
For example, I am a beginner for trading.
yeah.
At what minimum amount I should start to trade in
Mhm.
Indian stock market
Mhm.
and other stock market? It's like a forex trading, which is in dollars.
You're right.
In dollar, what amount I should start, and in Indian currency, what I should start, means what amount I should take and start.
When you speak about forex market specifically, the risk reward ratio is pretty much on the lower side, right? So the fluctuation in the forex market is nothing beyond what you can say something like uh, 50 basis points in a day. The volatility I'm speaking, I'm not speaking about the total thing, but the volatility, right? So if you want to understand and if you want to experience something about the zeal of working in the derivatives market, you can start with forex market. That will be good, because yes, obviously you will not be gaining too big, but neither will you be losing big.
Okay. Thank you so much, learners. Thank you, Anirudh. So I hope you all liked it, the session, the knowledge. And while Anirudh is dropping his email ID, I would like to also let you all know that you can connect with him on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm available on LinkedIn. I have dropped in my email addresses. So the first one, ani.bhide at derivexcellence.com is my venture. I'm still working on the website. It might take me some time because I'm currently also working as a freelance trainer. Uh, it occupies a lot of time of mine. Yes, but it is in the process. Maybe in a
Mm.
short span, you will be able to go through with the website. And if you have any questions or queries, or if you intend to join the courses that I have, or understand or want to understand what are the courses those are available, you can drop me a mail or call me, and or even get in touch with me on LinkedIn.
Oh, yes. So I hope you all have noted down the email IDs provided by Anirudh. And thank you so much for being a part of this session. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. We loved having you here. We loved all the questions and we loved how excited and interactive you all were. See you in the next session. You want to say something before we conclude the session?
Well, thank you very much for providing me this opportunity, and thank you for being amazing audience. Yes, I do understand that I was unable to respond to each and every question because of time restriction. But yes, as I have dropped my email, you can get in touch with me anytime on my email, or even get in touch with me on my LinkedIn ID. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody. See you in the next session. Thank
Thank
you.
you.